have a young lady who is a naturopathic student who had some pretty significant findings. So I'm going to go through some of those again, and then I'm going to show how we might be able to change it based on affecting her hemispheric input. Okay? So what we're going to do is demonstrate the primitive reflex exam on her because it was most significant, and we want to see if it's changed from 2 days ago to today. You have any overall complaints that you struggle with?
A lot of fatigue.
A lot of fatigue?
Waves of muscle and joint pain.
Waves of muscle and joint pain?
Gastrointestinal issues that come and go.
GI issues?
Some like mood dysregulation.
Mood dysregulation. We had gone through whether she had a significant developmental history, meaning did she miss or skip any milestones? Did she have any learning challenges or behavioral issues? None that she was significantly aware of. So again, we could go through that in depth and see if there was any significant developmental history. Okay, so we're going to do the tonic labyrinthine reflex. Put your feet together. Close your eyes.
Do you have your site ready? Just if you like, okay, that's it. Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. I should do the other slides around the wheel. This is your slide presentation. I had this presented by multiple people. I feel like this was easier to follow than me just because I've heard it a few times, but maybe because you're like very good on the you need to go to much times for just saying. But it's just saying.
You can see if we just push her a little bit, she would go back. Okay, you can see that this is a tonic labyrinthine. What you're seeing is instability of these labyrinthine, which are really the basis of what we call overlap. All right, so we're going to look at her asymmetric tonic neck reflex. Put your feet together again, and close your eyes. I'm just going to turn.
And doesn't the computer, so hers is all on paper and sketch with pencils to try to follow like a speech. She was kind of like that. So it's really nice to have a format.
Okay, then normally I'm going to do this 3 times, but for brevity's sake, we're going to see that, again, there's obvious when her hand. This is a positive asymmetric tonic neck reflex. We also see that it's somewhat asymmetric, meaning it's more significant when I turn her head to the right than it is to the left. The longer I keep it there, the more significant it gets. You're going to put her head back. You're going to close your eyes. Okay, now that's the startle response of the Moreau, and obviously that is an infantile response. We're going to do the other part of it, which is the hand movement of back, which we see it also with the sound as well. Okay, so now we're going to get on our hands and knees. Get me a pen over there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to first do the spinal galant. You might want to come a little closer so we can look at from down. And you're going to keep her head neutral, eyes closed. We see that contraction. You see that subtle contraction there, relatively subtle. Okay, she's going into extension on that side with a little bit of flexion into that side. Okay, if I do it bilaterally, we see it. All right, so that's the spinal galant. We're going to come up here. We're going to look at another method of looking at the asymmetric tonic neck reflex. Her eyes are going to be closed. What we're going to be looking for is to see if she gets an elbow bend when we turn her head, like that. And you see how it just like that, it'll just snap right back into place. That's a reflex. You're going to do it to the other side, we see the same thing. You see how dramatic that is, right? It's a very, very prominent asymmetric, okay? So we see that that's there. Now we're going to look for the symmetric. This symmetric, she's going to bend her head down, eyes open, and look up and down. And we're looking to see if there's any major shift in her body, any collapsing of her arms like we just saw bilaterally, or any collapsing of her legs. And she doesn't have any of that, so that's good. This is how we can show that everybody has an individual profile. Not everybody's going to have everything. Okay, good. Now let's get you on your back. You can put your head up that way, feet down this way. We're going to work our way from the bottom up, and we're going to look for what we call the Babinski. Now that is a positive Babinski reflex right there. Clearly positive. Very significant, more significant on this side. And this is good because this may give me a little bit of indication. She's clearly got bilateral immaturity of her nervous system because we see the reflexes are bilateral. But we see they're asymmetric as well, meaning they're more prominent on one side than the other. This being more significant may relate to the left hemisphere. So, again, we're going to try to isolate because ultimately what's going to correct this is going to be a hemispheric intervention. We're going to look at the palmar grasp reflex. And that is, again, extremely obvious, very prominent palmar grasp reflex. That is textbook, classic. Now we're going to get in close, guys, because we want to see this rooting reflex on her, which is relatively subtle. We're going to, again, just stroke on her face. And we see that what looks like she's smiling is the rooting reflex. And again, we see it on both sides. Okay? Now we're going to look at the Moreau again from this position, where what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift her head up. And could you turn your arms in? I'm sorry. There you go. Because the Moreau turns them out, so we want to be able to emphasize that. And we're going to move back like this. And you're going to see it's going to get more and more prominent as I do it, okay? We're literally building up that effect. So, again, and that activates the sympathetic nervous system. That's why you see her breathing going on as it is right now. If I do a little stroking of her face and try to get that, we'll calm down a little bit. She's got a little bit of what we call blepharospasticity as well, which may tell us a little bit about an area called the basal ganglia. All right, so what we want to do now, get her up. What we want to be able to do is be able to try to determine some level of hemisphericity on her. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And what we're going to do is look at some muscle testing. Let me push down. Hold on. Okay, let's get you to put your thumbs like this. Put back. Let me push down. A little weaker on the right side. It feels. You're right-handed or left-handed? Right-handed. Okay. I'm just going to pull forward. Hold on. A little distal weakness here. You just look at my finger. Just looking at her eye movements. Look at my finger. Turn your head to the left here and back to the middle. Do that. Do it just to that side. 1. Do 10 times. I'll count. 2. Come back to the middle. Good. Okay. Now we're going to go to the right. Is it harder to look that way? All right. So she's got what appears to be a lower VOR on this side. What we're looking at, it appears to be that she may have more of a, she's got a bilateral weakness, but she seems to have a little bit more of a left hemisphere weakness than a right hemisphere weakness at this point. So what I'm going to do to test that is I'm going to do a little bit of stimulus here. Anybody else have a little light on it? Because she's got the Moreau and she's got these tonic neck reflexes and labyrinthine reflexes, I'm going to use some mesencephalic and I'm going to use some light stimulation and a little bit of sound stimulation. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to. I'm going to look at 2 things here. 1, does this modality actually make a difference? 2, am I stimulating the right side of the brain? If I'm stimulating, and whether the hemispheric interaction is significant at all in this. If it isn't, then no matter what side I stimulate, it should have an equal effect, one way or the other, making it better or worse. If there is a hemispheric effect, then we're going to see it get better. But then if we do it to the other side, we'll make it worse. So I'm going to now just use a little sound on this side. You see that it actually has an effect on her. So I'm going to do it a little lower so I don't really stimulate that quite as much. Still has an effect on her. It's called a Tullio effect, which has a vestibular response as well. And do some movements. Keep your eyes straight ahead. Okay. So first thing I'm testing right here is to see if we made a difference in the startle response, right? Close your eyes again. Okay. She still has a little bit, but it's definitely clearly better. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit more of this stimulation. And again, try to keep your eyes straight when I do this, okay? Let's see if there's a difference with the light, if that makes more of a difference. Okay, light clearly made a difference, but we also see she's not quite reacting like she did before, where she was jumping. Okay, that actually brought it back a little bit, right? So looking at it, light seems to be a very good stimulus for her. Now again, this is quick and dirty. Obviously, I'm going to go through other things and we try to put together a better treatment approach for her, but we're going to see if this is working. So now what I want to do is have you close your eyes. And we're going to put these together. We're going to look at the tonic labyrinthine again. Definitely better than it was before. There's still some work we need to do on this for sure. Put your hands up, wrist down, wrist down. Keep your eyes closed. Okay, again, significantly better. Let's get you on your hands and knees. Again, we're going to look at this spinal block. All right. What we see is that it's still pretty significant, but it's really only on the one side. So it became a little asymmetric, which means that it's getting better. We're going to do this again. Keep your eyes closed. Remember how prominent that was before, right? On both sides. Okay, so again, we're seeing a little asymmetry. As we get the brain better, what we see is that the asymmetry tends to come out a little bit. As we inhibit these primitive reflexes, the actual asymmetry gets more pronounced. So what we're going to do is just stay just like that. Again, we're going to use the light again. Significantly better. Okay. So what we're going to do actually is we're going to do this again, just to see if we can make it a little bit better. We might be doing a little bit too much stimulus with it right now, so we got to be aware of that as well. Okay, that's better. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to see is, again, let's get you to stand up. This is the hemispheric model. And we're going to look at a couple of other things while you're standing. We're going to look at the palm grasp. Okay, that's still there. It's better, but it's still there. It's a different body position as well, so. Okay, she's still getting the rooting reflex. So what we want to see now, though, is we definitely saw a difference in some of her responses. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see is the hemispheric influence, does it matter? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the stimulus to the opposite side and see, is it truly a left hemisphericity? And is the hemispheric influence really going to do anything? Or is it just any stimulus is going to make a difference? And any kind of stimulus would make a difference. So we found that the light made the biggest difference. But we're going to do it in combination with the head. Keep your eyes straight ahead. We can see that
Yeah, I don't like it on that side.
that came back. Very proud of it. Okay, so we can see that it did come back, and you don't feel it.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like that.
Okay, so what this tells me, again, quick influence, is that there is most likely an active left hemisphere weakness. There's a bilateral weakness because she's got primitive reflexes that are bilateral, but there's an asymmetry to them as well. The hemispheric imbalance is significant because we were able to reduce these with relatively simple interventions. Now, obviously, if we do more significant interventions, we look at other things. Right now, we're doing light. We're doing some basic sound. We can do other different types of sound, like music or frequency. We can do things like, more physical-based stuff, like adjustments, or we can get into specific exercises. We can do vibration stimulation. We can do all different types of stimulation to that. And we would go through all of those to see what their influence for our primitive reflexes as an indicator, which means that what we can do is we can look at it and say, okay, what we're doing at now is if we use something like, let's say, her palmar grasp, right? Why don't you come up here and show you that other people can do this. Now you're going to do that. Do the palmar grasp for her. Okay, see, just keep on doing that. And you look straight ahead, and I'm going to stimulate. Keep on doing it. Do it at the same level. If I take it away, let's see what happens. See, it gets a little stronger. We bring it back in. All right, let's add a head turn. I'm going to add some sound, actually, at the same time. Okay, so the question of how long do I do it for? It's an indicator right here. Once I inhibit that, right now I know I've done it for the right period of time. Okay, now try it on the other side. Okay, so now we'll do the same thing. Now don't look. And we can check it bilaterally. And again, there is a bilateral representation here as well. So we may have to do some right hemisphere stimulation because her right hemisphere is also down as well. So we may have to do a little bit of both at the same time, but it may also accentuate it and make it worse. Okay, so again, I'm going to add some sound here and see if this helps that. Pretty much stopped, right? So now, Ken, put your hand down. No Melillo reflex any longer. Let's look at that. Okay, still rooting. So again, there's individuality as well. So what we may have to do, we have to keep on doing this more on this side of the face to be able to do that. We may need to do it in combination with the light and the sound, right? And so she may need some tactile from the face directly. So we're doing things, and it's individualized. It's based on her. There's, dozens of different activities we can do and different combinations we can do, but we have these indicators. It's clear that it makes a difference. These are obviously primitive reflexes. There's nothing else that they could be, right? And we can change them. We can alter them, and we do it primarily through a hemispheric intervention. So there are exercises for each one of these that we're going to give her to inhibit them. We're going to get her to do a left hemisphere type of program, and I'm going to talk to her separately and individually about other things that we can do for her, and then I'll interact with her so I know that she's getting better, and I'll see if we can also team her up with somebody locally that can, kind of be my eyes and ears there. And if I'm out in California, then we can connect once again. Okay? All right. Great. How do you feel right now?
I feel good.
Do you feel different?
Yeah.
Did you feel a difference?
I do. When I first started, I felt like super sympathetic and
Right.
jittered, and then I'm feeling much calmer.
Right. And that's because, again, a lot of what we're doing is when we're stimulating the brain appropriately, when we remove these primitive reflexes in the brainstem, there's an area called the nucleus ambiguus, which is affiliated with the vagus nerve, which is parasympathetic, which inhibits those sympathetic responses and helps with facial expression, facial muscle tone, swallowing, vocalization, but also helps control her digestive system. So she was talking about digestive problems, she was talking about emotionality problems, and this probably make her, the fact that she was left hemisphere, do you read slowly? Yeah, so, again, the left hemisphere is language basically. So, a lot of people can compensate, but things like spelling and vocabulary and basic reading skills can sometimes be a lot slower. That would be the basis of people that have dyslexia as well, in a more severe type of thing. But, we know when the left hemisphere is low, you're also prone to things like depression. And, so these are all things that can be modulated. Okay? All right, great. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. See you again. Okay.